This Bernie Sanders sound. Tell us about this, Matt.
So Bernie was on the Pine Ridge Reservation in southern South Dakota yesterday, and he had a town hall. He spoke for not too long and then took a bunch of questions. This audio is at the end of it. Addiction came up a lot. Opioid addiction came up, and he kind of wrapped it up. And I really like this because you see the Plains hide in the background, like Plains hide painting from the Native. There's a lot of Native American stuff on the stage. I think it was an interesting visual.
It's going to be interesting to see if opioid addiction makes it into. I mean, it's been touched in the periphery, but it's obviously a huge problem. But there are lawsuits now that are going after the makers of OxyContin because apparently, and I think I'm interviewing somebody on Ring of Fire for this, but the makers of OxyContin knew from tests that it didn't quite do what it said it did. The big upgrade with OxyContin was that it lasted 12 hours and you didn't have to take another dose. And it turns out not so much. And they knew that from their studies. And however, they kept marketing it that way, which caused people to basically take more than they were supposed to because they needed to. The dosing didn't work in the way that they thought they did, and then it was also obviously highly addictive. And I think maybe physicians thought that it would be less addictive because you're only taking it once every 12 hours or something to that effect. But here is Bernie Sanders at a town hall in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and he was there yesterday and taking questions. Check this out.
What I have heard loudly and clearly is there is a lot of pain in this community. There are a lot of people who are turning to drugs to escape the reality of their lives. There are a lot of children who may be giving up, and I want to say something to the kids, if I might. I know that there are temptations out there in drugs and alcohol and everything else. That is not going to solve the problem. All right? And what we have got to do under difficult circumstances, and I appreciate that the circumstances are difficult, you got to fight back, you got to get your lives in order, and you got to fight your way through this stuff. Because if you succumb to drugs and alcohol, there is not going to be much of a future. Is that right? Yeah. All right. So please, I know it is hard. And if I'm elected, you're going to have the resources that you need to get the education that will benefit your lives. We're going to do the best we can to bring jobs into this community so people don't have to turn to crime in order to earn a living. We are going to significantly improve the healthcare system because I think the point that Evie made is absolutely right. Treaties were negotiated and quality healthcare is part of that treaty, all right? And that's what we're going to do. And I think, by the way, that's true not just for Indian country, it is true for every person in the United States of America. All right, we got a lot of work. We've got a lot of work to do. But the history of everything is that nothing ever good happens if people give up. If we give up, nothing good happens. I want every kid here to be studying hard with the hope and expectation you will get a good education and a good job. But you have got to continue the fight to make that happen. Nothing happens if people just complain. You got to stand up, be involved in the political process. All right, here's a promise, all right? If elected president, the head of the Indian Affairs Bureau will be here on this reservation. How's that?
There you go.
That's about 10 miles from where the Wounded Knee Massacre was.
Wow.
It's one of the poor clusters of counties in the country.
That was awesome.
Bernie Sanders in South Dakota.
I'm not in 100% agreement that was awesome.
Why
That's
is
a
that?
surprise. It's a real shock.
Well, because
Playing the Michael role today will be Matthew.
right. Yes, thank you, Film Guy Matthew.
Filling the seat, filling the mic.
Because I don't think that because he sounded like an old guy who doesn't understand addiction a bit to me. It is heavily related to low resources, low access to medical care and poverty, and he kind of brought poverty into it, but just not giving up and fighting your way and all that. It doesn't sound. It's not.
I get what you're saying, and I think there's something to that. He did end with that. I'm gonna bring the Indian Affairs agency here, and
I certainly think that.
and I think that's the point he's talking about. Is that
I certainly think policy-wise, he would be the best choice for these people and for everyone.
But I mean, I think he's acknowledging. I think that's the point he's trying to make when he talks about Indian affairs. That it's clear you're not getting the resources here. And
well, but you started the segment with, if this is going to enter the conversation, and it should, because it is a really major problem and it is distinctly regional.
right.
But that's not. He might want to get some advisors.
He needs to read Johan Hari's book, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, he had sort of a mix of the.
I agree with what you're saying.
He had sort of a mix of the old-fashioned style, like you just don't do it.
Buck up,
type of
right.
thing.
Right. Pull
Yes.
yourself up by your
No,
own.
I think that's a legitimate
moccasins.
criticism.
But I will say, like the 15 minutes before that, the majority of that town hall was talking about healthcare. So there's probably more about that stuff covered too.